Hey guys, today is my first attempt at getting a little bit fancy. You guys are going to come along with me on a complete start to finish resharpening, reprofiling, cleaning, breakdown of this little Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops. It came to me and I like the idea of this one because let's be real honest, there are an awful lot more knives like this floating around than there are custom Demcos, than there are Medfords. This is the majority of what people have in their pocket. So I want to show that a knife like this can be really sharp. Unfortunately, this one is not. We might have a new contender for dullest knife ever. So it's going to be a longer video. I'm going to try to speed things up, get a little bit fancy. Let's get into it. Okay, we're going to start off with a cutting test first, I think, or pre-cutting test. And before we get started, as always, thank you 5 Hour Energy. If you've not tried their new drinks yet, you need to. And the watermelon, it completes me. Leave that back there. All right, our standard medium of testing, phone book paper. I know most of y'all are probably too young to even remember what this is, but let's see. Uh-oh. Oh, that's lovely. Okay. Well, it's kind of cutting. Let's try plunge it and cut. Oh, wow. You can see here, it isn't cutting so much as it's just tearing. That's beautiful. All right, let's try what every knife should be able to cut. Printer paper. Oh boy, come on. Oh, yeah, can you actually see how it's just tearing? See if I can get that to focus. It's just shredding that edge. That's pretty impressive. Come on. Come on. Nope. All right, plunge cut. Oh, that's just ugly. Okay, let's see if we can show just how gloriously jagged that is. Wow. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we officially have a new undisputed champion. The Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops is something to behold. So before we get into the sharpening, let's check out the action. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. So this is just effectively a steaming pile of hot mess, which a lot of lower end, high manufactured knives unfortunately come like this. So what we're going to do, we take our super mega Sharpie and we trace the edge. What this allows us to do is to put it on the sharpening system and shows us how even our bevel is going to be. Which I have a feeling the answer to that question is going to be not very. This is kind of a pain to maneuver around the camera sitting right here. That looks about right. Couple drops of gun oil. Start off with a higher grit stone because we're not looking to remove material here. We're looking to remove the marker. That looks pretty close to spec on. So what I'm doing is just trying to save myself a little bit of time, and I'm placing the stone on there and seeing how closely it matches the bevel that's already on there. And then we turn our handy dandy little angle finder on. About 21. Ew. Okay, so I'm gonna say I don't mind it if it's gonna be at 21. It's not where I normally would put it, but that's where it wants to be. Okay, let's try 21. Don't be like that. Okay. So let's see what 21 degrees gets us. All right, we can see that has removed a good deal of the marker. I'm pretty comfortable saying that's right about the blade angle. Man, I'm getting lucky on this stuff. Piano's gonna fall on my head soon. Let's see what this side is. Yeah, you can see in here we're a little bit off. We're right up in here. Okay, so that's close enough. I'm good with it. And I'm saying we're gonna start there. So we are gonna go with this knife at 21 degrees. I keep track of all these because when they come back to me, it's so much easier to just go, oh, all right, I know that one's 21 degrees, and I start right there. And then I don't have to kind of go through this whole fun time of trying to figure it out. So this is where the fun truly begins and we truly start grinding. I'm gonna try to speed this up so y'all do not have to suffer through all of it. And there is this clock back here. Let me get my Tactical Home Depot pointer. Clock right here that you guys are going to be able to keep an eye on, and it will show you the actual time spent on the project. I may have to break this up in a couple days. It just depends how much time I have to dedicate to this particular project. So, a couple minutes, we'll start grinding away. We're starting off with a 50 grit stone, 50 grit diamond stone, I guess I should say, affectionately nicknamed the Beast. And this stone is capable of removing an awful lot of material very quickly, as you can already see the residue on the blade. been slightly a little off on my guesstimate of 21 degrees. What I'm doing here is I'm looking to establish an even burr on the back side of the blade. And we've not lifted anything yet. I have a feeling this thing had a seriously rolled edge. I didn't put it under a magnifying glass to look, but given its lack of cutting ability and the amount of material that we have, let's see if I can get my fancy new phone to zoom in on that. The amount of material we've taken off already. I want to flip it over. Normally you don't flip until you start to establish a burr and have a nice even burr through the whole thing, but I've got a feeling this one could be a bit more labor intensive than I initially expected. I provoked it by saying I got lucky. So, yeah. Actually touching that? Nope. Starting to get a little bit of a burr there, but nothing there, nothing there. I'm thinking this was probably a little more like 22 or 23 degrees. And I was possibly slightly overzealous. You can see the amount of material that's coming off. So, yeah, I jinxed myself. It was nowhere near 21. Well, it was near it, but if you plan on doing a mirror edge or even getting close to it, you kind of want to clean this material off every so often, because that will leave a bunch of fine little scratches on the edge, and that's going to make your life harder in the long run. Okay. You can see, let me try to zoom in on that. You can actually see and hear my fingernail sticking on the edge that's rolled over. That's called a burr. That's what you want. See, my finger is actually, my nail's clinging to it. That's what you want to establish, nice and even on the entire edge. And we're okay there, really nice there. Not so much there. I think there was a bit more damage on that than I initially suspected. All right, so we're getting there. And I'm back. Dogs needed to go outside. That is the really wonderful clicking noise you hear in the background. Doggy toenails on wood floor. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Okay. Can live with that. Let's try this side. How are we hitting there all of a sudden? I came a little bit loose. Okay, you can see and hear we've got a pretty nice even bevel on both sides. So I'm going to advance stones the beast. Trick with this is kind of put your thumb behind the blade. When you're working with just a little blade like this, there's a tendency for the blade to work itself back, and that will change the angle. So you just kind of wedge your thumb there, and that keeps it from coming in. It also feels really good when you scrape your thumb knuckle with this diamond stone. It's like exfoliating for men. Okay. Grip in the books. 140. This one's actually progressing pretty nicely. That scares me. I mean, this one's doing horrible. So a lot of times people think that you've got to have the exact same passes on each side, and that's really important to keep track of. It is and it isn't. I do between 2 and 5. And the main thing is you're checking for that burr to be consistent. If you can get it 2 times on one side and it takes 10 times on the other, pass-wise, it is what it is. You have to even the bevel out. And a lot of times, like zero tolerance is notorious for their sides being uneven. They may not be symmetrical. You may have to do 25% more passes on this side than this side. That's okay. You're gonna even it out, but don't get hung up on, oh, well, I did 10 passes on this side, I've got to do 10 passes on this side. No, you don't. Okay. $140 done. This is exciting stuff, isn't it? You can hear the differences in the stones as you advance up the grit. 50 sounded like we were dragging gravel across it. Now that we're into 300, getting to the point where you're starting not to hear it. And these higher grit stones, you're going to have a more and more difficult time feeling the bevel that you're raising. It's possible, but you're going to start getting more into just polishing than you are pulling up that burr. It's there, but I mean, some folks will actually get out a jeweler's loop and verify the bevel before they switch. I'm not quite that fancy. You can see it still catches, but it's just barely. But now we've got to be cautious of making sure to remove all of the residue, because this is when we're starting to want to work all these scratches out. And on this blade, to be very truthful, it's not going to be worth the time to work all the scratches out. It'll be mirrored-ish. 300. I need to take a quick break because my phone has gone completely bonkers and I need to see who's calling me. So we'll be back in a minute. And we're back again. $600. Again, you can hear the substantial difference in sound. Other than the fact that this knife was so dull it couldn't cut itself, it really wasn't in bad shape. And there's a lot of knives that can be a lot more time consuming depending upon what steel they're made out of. Like D2 steel is a bugger. It's really hard, takes a long time to work damage out. This knife really didn't have any chips. I think the edge was rolled. I think the tip had a bit of damage because it gave me some issues there initially. But working out large chips is what takes time because you've got to work so far back in. Working out a bevel that's just a mess side to side, or a lot of times knives that are sharpened. Oh yeah, we're getting sharp already. Knives that are sharpened on a belt will have a dramatically different angle here than they will here. And that's just because the natural human tendency, when you're passing on a belt, you lift up. That's just kind of how our shoulders work. So it just happens. And for this sharpening system, it's considerably more uniform. It will vary a little bit from here to here. That's why you kind of started in the middle, and then it more or less works out. But on a belt system, it's usually considerably different from point to point. And I can tell this steel is really pretty soft. So it's actually going really quickly. That's not really a good thing. It means it's probably not going to hold its edge really well, which probably explains why it came to me like the razor blade that it was. This is kind of a fine balance of attempting to see, let you guys see the clock see the sharpening and not be in my way. And really, again, there's a lot of people that'll tell you, oh, you've got to do this many passes, you've got to do this many passes, you've got to do passes like this, you've got to do passes like that. I don't think there really is a right or wrong answer. You just try to keep the sides balanced out is the main thing. And find a system that works for you, much like everything else. And our last diamond stone, 1500 grit. Sorry guys, that's not really the best in focus, but kind of got to pick one thing to focus on, and there, we'll bring that into focus even though it's a little shiny. Shiny? Jane, what do you think about that?
Shiny. Let's be bad guys.
Okay. There we go. I'm still learning all the bells and whistles on this goofy phone. It is smarter than I am. That's not saying much. A Nokia from the mid-90s is probably smarter than I am. Even at this point, I didn't quite look at when we started. By the time I'm done with this stone, the knife will be plenty sharp. And for the owner, it's probably going to be more than good for the abuse he's going to give to it. This was relatively new, and quite honestly, I'm impressed there wasn't gravel in it, and the blade didn't have his name carved into it. Let's see if we can get a nice close-up with this fancy spancy camera. Yeah, that ain't working real well, is it? Yeah, I know. It's supposed to have macro mode. Let me put you guys on ignore here for a minute. I'm gonna see if I can find that. Yeah, I couldn't. Anyway, I know there's a macro mode somehow. I'm gonna have to figure out how to use that because I don't know. I'm going to try. I don't know how well this is going to work. I'm probably going to regret doing this, but I'm going to lower this down. Let's see if that works. I'm going to say a big fat no to that too. Well, y'all are witnessing some pretty severe trial and error here on my part. Sorry. I think I'm going to finish up with this stone, and then we are going to call it for the time being. Because it is getting about that time for me to read bedtime stories and to do nighttime prayers with my son. And after I'm done with that, I might be back. But I don't know. Depends how well he goes to bed and how ambitious I feel. Which, unfortunately, my 5-hour energy has long since been drained. Oh, watermelon. Seriously, you guys got to try that one. A lot of people do tend to ask about the serrations, and serrations are not my favorite thing. I can do a little bit with them most of the time. I have different files that I will work with to make sure the teeth are nice and sharp, and then I try to strop the opposing edge to get them back into being as sharp as I can get them again. Serrations are kind of a bugger to sharpen, and they look neat. They are really cool. Wow, I screwed that one up. They're really cool when you first get them, but after that, they're kind of a great big pain, in my opinion. I think I'm going to stop the video, and we're going to attempt to take, I want to try to do a photograph, or we want to attempt to show this in close detail again. It was so successful the last 10 times I tried it. I'm going to say no. At the moment, we are now finished with the diamond stones Well, I am back. Bedtime stories are done. Prayers are done. And I'm going to finish this little guy up. Just going to clean the residue with some rubbing alcohol. I spoke to the owner, and he kind of agreed with me that really the knife isn't expensive enough to bother with mirroring it out. It's a time-consuming process, and it's a $10 knife. It's not worth it for the edge that it will hold. So we'll get it good. We'll make it... Jane, what?
Shiny. Let's be bad guys.
If you guys haven't seen Serenity or Firefly, you need to. We'll get it shiny, but I'm not going to go that far out of my way. So we're going to start stropping. And let's see. We'll start with this one. Stropping is another one of those things that people really don't understand well. And if you hand strap on a belt or a strap, you've got to be very careful because you will convex the edge. And that's great until you go to sharpen it on a stone again. Then you're going to have some trouble. So really know what you're doing. The moral of the story is with all things, know what you're doing. This is kangaroo leather, and we're at 4 micron, but this is a different compound entirely. So this is about 4,000 grit, supposedly, but this is kind of my starting strap. It's a little older. When you strap, it is very important you only go in a downward pass. Otherwise, you will cut a nice big hunk out of your strap. I am willing to bet already the knife is plenty sharp. Strapping just kind of polishes a little bit, refines the edge, and takes it into a little bit of, it gives it a hint of the mirror. It doesn't mirror it completely, but well, you can go, man, that's a 0.1 micron, it's 160,000 grit. That's getting pretty fine. A lot of people question, why do you strap some? Why the glass lapping film? What's the difference? Some people think, really it's personal preference. The glass lapping films, I think, give you a nicer mirrored edge. The strap, I think, gives you a very nice working edge. And for this knife in particular, the strops are faster, and he's gonna use it. It's gonna be beaten up relatively quickly. So to spend this time on the lapping film just doesn't really make a lot of sense, much less an attempt to work all the scratches out. Okay. I think we are going to call it with 5,000s, and then everyone's absolute favorite, Smurf poop. I kid you not, that's what it's called. Okay, I'm just going to go straight to Smurf poop. I checked the edge over and I just don't see it making that much of a difference. The quality of the steel on this is not great. And we still have to break the knife down and attempt to make the action not suck. That could be entertaining. I don't know how well that's gonna go, to be real truthful. A lot of times these kind of lower end knives just kind of are what they are. I have no question I can get it better, but to get it good, that might be a bit of an issue. When you're stropping or using the glass films, it's important there's no downward pressure that you're putting on. It's legitimately gravity. I'm just kind of guiding it. And a lot of people will probably be critical. You're spending, I don't know, we're probably close to 45 minutes at this point, maybe more. My average time on each knife is about 2 hours, if I really stop and think about it. You just put that much time and effort into a gas station knife. Well, yep, I did, but this particular individual, that's what he could afford, and this is what he has, and I am choosing to help him. Is it, I hate to say, is the knife really deserving of this kind of treatment? But more or less, does it? And the answer to that's no. But I wanted to do a video showing the process and he wanted his knife sharpened. So I wanted to do a folding knife, and this was the one I had at the moment. So I'm relatively certain the owner won't complain about it, but he also didn't want to see me spend hours on something that he knows full and well is very budget-minded, and also just, it won't hold an edge. It's not a high-end steel. It's not even a low-grade steel. It is what it is. If this is what you have, you make the best of it. So he is going to have the sharpest Smith & Wesson, what is this thing called? Extreme Ops of anybody around, my guess would be. For how long, I don't know. But it'll make him happy. It made me happy to do it. And hopefully it made you guys happy to watch it. Like I said, I'll do it in a future video where I get something a little nicer and worth putting the time and the effort into to just mirror it out to no end and remove and work out all of the scratches. This just really isn't that knife. And I'm gonna say that I'm done. Thank you, Smurf Poop. Clean the blade. And now, I'm curious to see what this thing looks like inside, to be very truthful. I don't have very high hopes or expectations, but I think what we'll do first is we will try to revisit the cutting test that was oh so funny the first time. I think that's a good place to start. All right, let's get that out of the way. Get the blade dry. Yeah, there's some interesting residue on there. Don't ask, don't tell, I guess. Okay, what do we think? Well, should we start off with the printer paper? Yeah. Let's start off with this. Same sheet we had the first time. That was, I might keep this because that was pretty amazing. Okay, so let's place bets. What's it gonna do? Ooh. Okay, well, those were nice clean cuts, but a butter knife can pretty much cut printer paper. So let's see where we're at with phone book paper. Okay, what do you think? Oh. Not bad. Yep. Okay, I think we're pretty good. So now we get to move on to cleaning this mess up and breaking it down and seeing if we can do anything about that. Stay tuned. Okay, got everything cleaned up, and now let's see what makes this little fella tick. Those are interesting looking screws. that is a screw. Ugh. This might be a bad idea. These screws feel tragically cheap. I don't know that we've got to remove this back, but we're going to remove all of it, so I got a bad feeling with how soft these screws feel. The bits that I'm using are made by Weha, and these are regarded as about the best you can get. Okay, come on, lock in. There you go. Yes. Well, that's interesting. Are you kidding me? They did everything different sizes? Oh. They're just horrible tolerances. I pride myself on being able to improve the actions on knives, but I don't have a good feeling about this one. Okay, let's see what we have. It's relatively clean. That's kind of impressive. Come on. Wow, it's actually extremely clean. And bone dry. Wow. Completely bone dry, other than some grit. That could certainly explain the wonderful action. You stay there. Wow. Well, we really don't even need to clean it a whole lot, amazingly enough. I didn't expect that. I truthfully expected great big hunks of who knows what falling out of here. And to be quite truthful, it looks like he maybe cut a piece of paper with it. Hopefully that's not what dulled it out like it did. Spacer back in. Wow. I don't normally see them. I'm gonna try to pull this back a little bit, get rid of the shadow. Well, my super fancy phone isn't turning its flash on. I don't know. So overall, everything looks pretty good. There's really almost no wear whatsoever to speak of. Take a cotton swab and just go in here. Try to get that pivot to not be so bad. These don't even look like Teflon. They just look like plastic. That's adorable. There are times I sincerely question my life decisions. This knife would kind of be one of them. Because it's pretty entertaining. All right, gonna use some knife pivot lube on there, which probably costs more than this knife is worth, but we're gonna give it its best possible chance anyway. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, trying to see around the phone and what I'm doing is not the easiest. I just actually lubricated the thumb stud. That was pretty epic. I'm sincerely curious what's going to happen when we get this back together. Come on. Put a drop on the ball. I think that's the pivot. This is just a little blue Loctite. Wow, that's a horrible fit. I'm really curious about the action. I could eat my words on this. I doubt it, but I could. All right. Let's see where we're at. Oh, that feels horrible. I don't think I'm gonna. Ugh. When you adjust the pivot, you want to adjust for side to side centering, which is, ugh, no. I don't know how well that's going to go on this. And you want to adjust for, yep. Okay, that's not even seated. What do we got going on here? That feels terrible. Delightful. Yeah. Ugh. And what you can't see, maybe you can, the amount of blade play there, that's pretty awesome. It almost opens. You see that rocking back and forth? Helps if I use the right bit. Ugh. It's getting worse. Is it not seated? What's going on? Why is there those giant washers are okay? Is that even in? No, it's not. That popped out. Okay. Well, that explains a little bit of it. The tolerance on this is not anything to be desired. Oh, that's just disgusting. Okay, why is this? Is it not seating at all? Okay, there we go. It's just a horrible fit. Oh, wow. Okay, so that is real tight now. Centering actually looks pretty good. And it doesn't open at all. Did the lock just fail? It's locking up, but not well. Okay, so there's no blade play. Got something going on anyway. All right. I don't know. We might be able to get it there. No. No. Oh. Oh man, even with some rest, you can flick it open, sorta. There's a little bit of blade play, not a ton. That's just not gonna get there. Looking at the really beautiful plastic washers that it has in there, I'm not overly surprised we can't get any sort of tunable action out of this, just because you can give it some wrist and get it open. Honestly, I think that's about the best you're gonna get. That's depressing. It's not surprising, but it's depressing. I was hopeful I'd be able to cure that, but I really didn't expect to be able to. There's a bit too much. So I Loctite everything because I hate screws coming loose. We've all got that buddy that's got a knife with half the screws missing. Come on. Killing me. We're gonna call that good. I am slightly concerned about it's decent lock engagement, but it did completely fail the one time. I'll just say it wasn't seated in all the way. Really? No blade play. Oh, we got the stop seated in there. That was interesting. Well, I think that is going to be about as good as this little fellow is going to get. And I will not lie and say that doesn't hurt my pride just a bit, because it does. But looking at what the knife is riding on, it's far from shocking. So that is a complete start to finish, including the tear down cleaning, which really didn't involve a whole lot of cleaning, but action tune. Come on. I won't subject you to Jane again, but it's not bad. It's not good, but it's 100% better than what, it's probably more than that. When I first came here, it was a steaming pile of mess. Now it cuts. Is it perfect and shiny? No. Does the action not suck? No. But I think it's just what it is. I don't even think they're Teflon washers. I think they're just plastic. And not good plastic. It felt kind of rough. So I'll get a couple of pictures. I'll add it to the collection. I hope you enjoyed it. It was slightly frustrating for me, but it did sharpen up relatively well. So guys, take care of yourselves and each other.